Hello, welcome to the very first Global by Design podcast. On this podcast, we talk to creatives, designers, change makers from around the world about the importance of arts, culture, and design to creating communities where we want to live. And I'm super excited to have as our inaugural guest, Khutso Madubanya. Tell us a little bit about yourself. By the way, what this podcast is going to be is kind of going back and forth. Khutso has just published a book and I am just starting Be Global by Design. So we're going to tell you a little bit more about what Be Global by Design is and why this change happened. And that is Khutso's thing. She's all about change. So Khutso, tell us about yourself.
Well, Kristen, thank you so much for having me. And I have to say, lady, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Inaugural Big Global by Design. Big
Thank-
things happening.
I'm so excited and congratulations to you too.
I
This book
know, right?
has been a long time in the works. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. No, both of us have had this on our bucket list, right?
Yeah.
I'd just like to talk as much about your journey as I know you want to talk about mine. But you asked me a question, you know who I am. I'm Khutso. I'm originally from South Africa and I've lived all over the world really. I currently live in Michigan, the United States. And you and I have very similar backgrounds, don't we, Kristen? At least
We do.
professionally. You know, we had our professional loves bring us together. You want to tell the world how we met and why this is such a fun joint first session for us?
Yes. Just so we met through, shout out to Erin Nicholson, who is like a fantastic Foreign Service officer with USAID or the former
US,
USAID.
right.
Erin and I met back in 2000. The two of us started the agency together and bonded and are still best friends. And she knew when you moved to Michigan, she said, you know what, Kristen, you guys are both in Michigan. You're not close to each other, but you're in Michigan. You guys should meet each other. And it took us a little while.
We did. We both got busy.
How did you come across the fabulous Erin?
Well, in my previous life, which is similar to yours and Aaron's, I was an international development specialist. I actually met Aaron in South Africa, I believe. Yes, I was an economist for the South African government. I was doing the international development, international relations. So I was representing South Africa. She was representing the United States in a lot of our US South Africa, bilateral relations. So we made friends because we went to the same meetings, just representing different countries. That was so much. And our kids happened to share a birthday. I think our kids is off by one day.
Wow.
So our teenage kids, yeah, they were babies at the time. And as you said, she is fabulous. We stayed in touch until now. Needless to say, she mentioned you. She was like, oh, no, 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 she's one of us. You have to meet her. Meaning you. So here we are. Kristen, I know we're going to go to and fro a little bit. I
Hmm.
do want to know what brought you here today and why this very exciting venture that you started, Be Global by Design, and what that even means, Be Global by Design.
Well, so given our background, so I've worked in international development for 25 years. I was never in the Foreign Service, so I was always stateside. And, when I moved back to Michigan and mostly was doing contract work, I really realized that, there's a sense of togetherness when I travel. And, I've been to, 14 countries in Africa, around Central Asia, Southeast Asia, some South America, Latin America, and wherever I travel, there's a sense of togetherness. There's a sense of excitement, and I meet people from all walks of life and all the different places I go. And when I come back, I really feel like not everybody gets that experience and understands what some of these countries are like in reality. And I just think that there is a sense of I want people to be global, to think global, to really interact with global audiences on purpose. But the other part, the other trick of this is that, throughout my work, which has been primarily in economic growth, and I've worked on supply chains for water and sanitation systems, agriculture, value chain, tourism, business, association development, all kinds of things, cooperatives, like all the different nuts and bolts of creating business ecosystems in places where they may be stumbling. But one that I always, my favorite, I wrote my thesis on artisans in Zimbabwe. And every time I travel, I have to go to the artisan markets, and I really love talking to people who are just really passionate about what they can do with their hands and what they can do with their designs. So I created this membership group to really bring those designers and creatives together, because what I found is that a lot of projects and a lot of business ecosystems look over these creative industries, and yet they're generating trillions of dollars internationally every year. And by fueling creatives and designers, you really do design a better world.
Right, right, right. That is really phenomenal that you took what was, you know, a more mainstream, if you like, kind of job in international development, and you've made it your own,
Yeah,
anchored around your desire to bring the world to your mainstream person. As you said, that global
yeah,
viewpoint is what drives you. And that's what you and I totally have in common. We're these global beings. You've worked in 14 countries. I've lived in 8, and I'm sure
yeah,
both of us have. Oh, I just put this where we actually lived, right? Did so like significant amounts of work. If we were going to talk about travel, it even goes beyond. Uh,
yeah.
and and it is so 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 important. Why are those global viewpoints um so important today for you, Kristen? You mentioned about art and how that segment tends to get overlooked, but why today? Why is that so important?
So I think we have a few things clashing all at the same time that it's really interesting to watch. You have a lot of changes in the international environment. And I think the US, especially, I would say a lot of people just don't know what Africa is. They don't know what Asia is or Central Asia. We hear about Afghanistan, we hear about Iraq on the news, and it's not good stuff, right? And we, have this perception, and a lot of it is because of the media that we consume. We have this perception of backwardness, poverty, and yet when you go to these countries, I mean, I could plug in my phone to charge it on Kenyan Airways 5 years before I could do it on Delta. In Zimbabwe, when I went back there in 2013, I could not pay with cash. I had to use my phone. And I got perfect reception in 2002 in Serengeti when I got a phone call to confirm plans. And sometimes I drive an hour to rural Michigan and I totally lose signal. So there's just this like perception of what the rest of the world looks like that
Yeah,
maybe isn't accurate.
right.
But I think that stories are one way to connect people, but I think people connect through music, they connect through food, they connect through art and experiences, and they want to know more. People want to know more about the world. And I think it goes both ways. No matter where I traveled, everyone is very curious about the US and where I come from and what life is actually like.
My next question for you is then, with this project be global by design, how are you, in essence, the nuts and bolts of how you're bringing together those global views to us regular folk who, have all these misconceptions about each other, essentially?
Yeah, so I think it starts with building peer networks among artists and designers themselves. And by designers, I mean, the folks who like Interior design, yes. Graphic design, yes. But also like human-centered design thinkers who are product designers. These are the folks who are innovating, who are able to look at things from a new perspective, who are bringing together stakeholders to do sort of community change and to create bigger projects and really make it people centered life, sustainable urban design, things like that. And I think that when any of us act in isolation, we don't have full capacity to innovate. We don't know what we don't know. And a lot of times, artists and designers work in isolation because they don't know other people who are doing exactly what they're doing or kind of doing what they're doing. And by bringing together global networks of people, you really learn a lot because there's like an incredible fashion industry, sustainable fashion industry, and all over Africa, but especially in Ghana and Nigeria right now. And how are they doing it? What are they doing with clothing and textiles and reuse? And how can we apply it here in Detroit to really inspire us to do things differently? Or how are people using materials in a different country? Or how are they taking the concept of a museum, which has changed dramatically from what it might have been 20 or even 10 years ago, which is you go in and you look at art pieces, but now they're community hubs, right? And
Uh-huh.
so what does what what are museums doing in different places
Hmm.
that is stimulating more growth for the museum? It's stimulating more community involvement and social connection.
Yes.
So sorry. So the crux of all of this is really I'm trying to build a membership base of artists and designers who are really interested in learning from each other and mentoring each other and having workshops and understanding what the new markets might be or understanding how is it that I do my pricing on my handmade rugs in Afghanistan. And then also together we can decide what we want to advocate for, right? So we can advocate for the arts generally. We can advocate for different kinds of tariffs, maybe. We can advocate for human rights and in some of these industries. I know that was a lot, but the second piece of this, the second layer is I also want to bring together the convening organizations and the investing organizations because I think that they also benefit from having these perspectives of what other foundations have done other places, what other impact investors have done. And oftentimes, these investors want to create system change. And by bringing together artists and creating a network, you have something more that you can invest in. You have people who can work together to carry out a larger project. So the foundations will not only learn from each other, but they can also combine funds to do things that might be more transformational than they could do by themselves. And then third aspect of this network will be very special because it's got people I think creatives and designers think about the world in a different way. They see a material and they think about what they can do with it, or they have an experience and they can recreate a story around it. And they just think differently. And right now, there's a lot of corporations who are looking to invest in supply chains in Africa and Asia and other places. There's a lot of small towns here in Michigan that they're not doing well economically. There's corporations who want to put together social programs for their own CSR and ESG reporting and they could do it better. So what we want to do is come in. We have people, through our networks at USAID and other international development specialists who look at community change, and we can bring those people in as well as creatives to really help them rethink how can we improve the supply chain. How
Mm.
can we create other industries instead of just extracting cacao? how can we build up other industries around cacao? What kind of investments do we need to make in small manufacturing and tourism and whatever? And how can we combine with local community to really decide what else to do so that if we leave, this community is still going to be okay? And
Mhm.
I think that even in Michigan, some of these towns, that's what happened. The supply chain collapsed. And, you know, there they rely only on farming and it's not enough to
Right.
really make the small town work. But what if they did placemaking? What if they had an artist hub? What if they had an incubator? What if they were looking at the materials and the things that they can grow on the land as a way to feed into a different and new ecosystem? There's
Mhm.
just a lot of different ways to think about things. And I think by coming together and having sort of consulting assignments and fee based assignments with these corporations and institutions, foundations, we can put together strategies for them that might really help with both social and economic growth, as well as culture, heritage and preservation and all of
Amazing. Yeah. Wow. I'm blown away because part of my crisis with the international development world, which is why I left it,
Yeah.
is I thought in my head you do international you do development or economic development really abroad and not so much in the US. But what I love about what you're proposing is yes, we do of course support economic development abroad, but we also promote it locally. And
Yeah.
in fact, the synergies for learning are from both sides. We don't have one side being, we are there to educate you, to give you resources necessarily, right? It's learning from, have Americans learn from Kenyans and vice versa. Like it's a totally different model than what has in the past dominated the international development landscape.
Yes. Yeah. And you know, I too was very frustrated with that model of we have all the answers. Here
Yes,
you go.
yes,
Because we
yes.
don't have the answers.
And in fact, we have problems right here, right?
We have problems.
The real issue.
Yeah, and, I would find myself continually, like, on calls going, "That's really cool. Let me go and talk to the person down the street who's doing X, because they might be able to learn from what you're doing." And there's just a lot that we can learn through conversation
Yes,
from
yes,
each other, I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
No, I'm really blown away by your foresight, really, to do this, create something that is different and something that really speaks to the shortages in the traditional international development models, like the loopholes, in a way that's meaningful, really, to you and to the rest of us.
Well, and the other thing I want to do, and especially with this podcast, is really it's to share ideas, but it's also to share content. It's to share what other people are doing around the world. Oh, maybe live performances. Maybe we'll talk about honey in Yemen someday because it's a topic I'm obsessed with. Um, just really like talking about what other people are doing around the world just
Yeah,
to raise awareness,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, speaking of that,
Now you're gonna make me blush.
yes,
I
this is
love to
your
read.
book. I have to read the subtitles because when I read this to friends, because I do feel a lot of what's in this book was written for me. And when I talk to my friends who also happen to be high achieving women, but they all kind of cringe a little. They say it says, no more free passes for strong women who refuse to prove themselves anymore. Tell us about this book.
Okay, deep breath. As you can tell, it's there's a reason why there's a deep breath because that's my life story.
Yeah.
Very, very personal. I had always known I was gonna write something about the plight of women, especially the modern day woman. So, yes, it was just time this year when I started it. It really was time for me to finally do that. I had been carrying this calling for, and so a whole series of events brought me to a point where the story had been marinating, had percolated. It suddenly was ready to be birthed.
Yeah.
And that's how it came to be. And the story being, and Kristen, thank you for buying my book. Talking about my book, I often, I like to talk about many, many things, but when it comes to talking about my book, I get very shy
Well, it's
because
it's hard to get.
it is hard. It is hard. Yet, I'd had so many conversations with women, especially, and men, who have said to me, Khutso, this needs to get out there. Because this goes for all of us who have been trained to think that doing it all, being the strong one, is the way to go. Because that actually, it just masquerades pain, it masquerades trauma that none of us even know we are carrying. And coming from South Africa, this is how I knew I was always going to write this book. My upbringing.
Okay.
I've always been very angry being a girl child and growing up in Africa.
What was that like?
Well, I come from a culture where even today, modern South Africans will tell you, um, women really are expected to pull miracles. Yet, we are treated as second class citizens. Quite literally. Growing up, my mom, whom I love and adore very much, she really, I could never say a bad word about her. She is very much, she behaved and raised me the way a good mother in that community would. A good mother, right? Which is train your daughter to be a girl.
What does it mean to be a girl?
Yes, what that means is get ready to be married off to somebody's household one day. You get trained from a very young age. When chores are dished out at home, you get the extra lesson that, listen, you get to do it properly because you're getting ready. You're getting ready. One day you're going to lose yourself. You're going to lose your name. You're going to leave the family and go join somebody else's family.
Hmm.
And when you're in that family, we expect you to continue to, you work for them, you bear their children.
Yeah.
These are modern times. Kutso, you got to be ultra educated. You got to be ultra, 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 ultra driven, independent, because you don't know what it's going to be like in somebody else's family. So you need to be able to bet on yourself. So, I was angry at just the inequalities of it. And that's in part why I went and got my doctorate. Because I did not ever want to have, I got sick and tired of, every time you leave the house and you fill out a form, you have to declare whether you're married or not, at least in those days. Men
I
don't.
mean, what else? I still do. If I fill out a health form, it's going to the doctor, are you married? Are you not? Or, what is your marital status?
There is that. And a man will get asked the same, but the title says everything. That's how you're branded. You walk into a bank. Well, are you a Miss Madubanya, a Mrs. Madubanya? I was like, no, I will be a Dr. Madubanya, thank you. And then you'll stop sizing me out based on whether I married somebody. No, whether somebody marries me or not. Because
Right.
where I came from, women get married, as in a dowry gets paid for you, and you become somebody else's something.
Poverty.
There are cultural reasons that people will defend. I never saw them. I really never did. I never saw the benefit of it, to be very honest with you. And I'm sure there are my countrymen and women who will disagree, but I'm telling my story. Being the only daughter, having two brothers, and having been married several times, I eloped 2 out of the 3 times that I got married because I did not want a whole ceremony around, dowries getting exchanged and you're going to get told that now you're married, you got to do what the other family wants. No, not going to do that. So all of that is in the book.
So what though, what do you think you internalized through all of that? Because I think your conclusion, which is really interesting, is it doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you learn to work hard, to be independent, to do it all, to carry everybody, to be self-sacrificing, as a form of what is it called? Security, if you like.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's a shield.
Yeah.
Being this independent is a shield. There's a healthy level of independence, of course, right? But some of us, those of us who are so mortified of failure, who are so mortified, if you catch yourself really having a hard time asking for help, that's a red flag right there.
It's hard. It's hard to ask for help. I'm okay to ask for help if I can pay you. If I can exchange something for it. If I know that there's some sort of equality
Yes,
in there.
yes.
And it's
Tit for tat.
interesting. You tell a story in there about trying to travel for work and needing to find care. Tell us the story about needing to find care for your children.
Yeah, yeah, that was one of my real turning points in life. I had come, let me back up a little bit to give the listeners a bit of context about the book. I had come from a place where, I had just suffered blow after blow, within a very concentrated period of time. All my life to that point, I had prided myself with, I don't ask for any help. I can do it all. I'm a go-getter. Hey, I've got this, right? And through a series of events, I had found myself really overwhelmed and quite burnt out, and having to admit to myself for the first time in secret that this is hard, that doing it all is really, really not healthy and is hard. And I had gone through therapy for my burnout and all sorts of things over months, a couple of years, and I was going through legal this, and it was just a crazy time. And as I was going through that phase, I also needed to travel. My kids and I had just moved to the United States. Um, we'd moved to Michigan. Part of why you came, Erin put us together, is because I told her, "Oh, I don't know anyone in Michigan. Quite literally, I don't know anyone." And it didn't bother me because I'm used to doing it all and doing it alone, right? But through this series of humbling events, I had come to learn that, as you rightfully said about, you know, um, your organization, Be Global by Design, community.
Yeah.
You can't, you don't know what you don't know if you do it alone, right? Anyway, so I had, what you said was just news to my ears. Now it doesn't surprise me, but those were the few times I actually caught myself realizing, wow, you don't get to do everything on your own. All right, so now fast forward, I am needing to leave town. This is the first time my therapist had been working with me. Khutso, you gotta learn to ask for help and actually receive help, because you're gonna die. You're really gonna kill yourself doing it all. Your children are gonna be motherless if you don't start accepting help, asking for help, and accepting help. And so here I am. I'm gonna go travel for the first time. My kids are little, like 15 and 11. I wasn't gonna be able to leave them home by themselves for like 5 straight nights, right? Days and nights. So I'm thinking, oh gosh, what am I gonna do? Oh my God, I'm mortified of asking for help. Everybody in this town where I live have been very supportive. Could say, if you need anything, let us know, let us know. And of course, I've turned every single one of them down because I do not ask for help, right? So now I'm thinking, oh God, it's either I go and I never sleep and my children don't have a way to get to school and I don't know if they're okay or blah, 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 or I really follow my therapist's advice and just ask for help and see what happens. So with just a few days to spare, I thought about all those, families who are already friends with my kids. I know them well, that have been offering forever. And I thought, all right, this is it, Kutso. This is it. We're gonna ask for help or else. So I picked up the phone, and I needed three families because I have three kids, right? Each one their best friend's house. So I called those parents, holding my breath, sent text messages, holding my breath, like, oh my God, I'm really gonna die. And nothing happened. It
They
didn't
said
die.
yes.
They didn't even laugh at me. They didn't think you are weak for asking. They didn't think, oh, yeah, now that reciprocation you mentioned, Kristen, you're fine asking if you know you're going to pay back. They didn't even ask for it. They were not like, yeah, okay, it will. No, Khutso, we're happy to help. Just let us know what you want. And they did such a stellar job. They stayed with my kids, let me know every minute of the day how they were doing, made sure they called me, and just as I would if I paid a babysitter.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Was
It's
amazing.
amazing what people will do for you.
Yes.
How did you feel inside?
I remember as I was leaving, it got really busy as I was trying to get ready for the trip. And then you sit on the airplane and you reflect back. Oh, I remember just crying. I'm like, oh my God. One, I didn't cry. I didn't die from asking. Two, my children have the care they need. And three, who are these people? That kind to me. How do I deserve such kindness from people? Because I come from a place where you earn your keep as
Yeah.
somebody's wife. You earn your worth. If anyone's gonna respect you, you have to earn it. People don't just give. The world is not just kind to you just because you ask, just because.
Well, and it's also, I think, interesting with that because had any of them asked you to help them with their children, you probably would have been like, absolutely, 100% and totally been on board
Yeah,
without even questioning it.
yeah, absolutely. And that's the irony, right? Us go-getters who are afraid to ask for help, we're the first people to give help.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We give help, but we don't ask for help for ourselves, which is the irony. And that
Yeah.
got me really looking deep within. That's how I ended up with this notion of a worth revolution. Because I realized deep down I had that hunger to be seen, hunger to be recognized, fear of rejection.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and a lot of it coming from, the childhood that I kind of relate a little bit of. Yeah, as I share this story with other people who don't even come from where I come from. Hey, in South Africa, I have so many women who are like, oh my God, girl, where have you been? Get this dowry for so long. Amazingly, around the world, even those women like yourself, Kristen, in the United States, there isn't the dowry system. In many cultures in the United States, there isn't that because that is the surest way to tell a woman there's financial worth attached to you, right? Forget that. But I found it so fascinating that even women coming from different backgrounds. Those of us, even men, as I said, who are driven, high achievers, tend to have the syndrome, what
Yeah.
they clinically call hyper independence. And it made me wonder, I wonder why. I really wonder why so many of us have this. And so, of course, then in the book, I get into what I found to be helpful in terms of reversing some of that. How do you learn to trust again? How do you learn to restore your own worth instead of
Yeah.
seeking that outside validation? Somebody say, hey, now you have a PhD, now you're somebody, right? How do you wake up and just realize, look, I'm alive and therefore I deserve to have my needs met? I don't have to earn my worth.
Yeah. So tell us what about your pivot method, about what you mean by dancing with kids. Like what can somebody do or what have you found to be helpful when you're advising people in terms of quitting hyper independence?
Sure. Yeah. Well, what I do now, as you rightfully pointed out, I speak. I do professional speaking alongside writing my books. And the way Dancing with Change came about is because of this first book. As I was going through that crisis that taught me the need for my own self-worth, which led me to my own diagnosis of myself, I
Mhm.
realized that there are some steps that I tend to follow, which I have followed all my life, really, that have helped me turn around whatever adversity there is.
Okay.
and help me push through and come out on the other side in a positive way. What pivot is, it's a framework that I teach on, that I speak on, which was very much born out of this whole hyper independence crisis. As I said, I realized when I was at my lowest that I actually really did not have time to take a book and read it. I did not have time to spend time, to have girl time, yoga time, whatnot. The only thing I had was my mind. The
Yeah.
only thing I had that I
Yep.
actually had time for was my mind. So I started to realize, okay, well, how do I empower myself? Not through taking time off, but through my own mind in real time while I'm going through transition or a challenge or a process, what I call change in general. And the framework pivot is an acronym that stands for 5 steps or 5 tips, if you like. They're really mind recalibration tools. These are what you tell yourself in the moment, whatever moment that is, when you're faced with especially unpleasant change, right? First thing you're going to do, P stands for pause, right? You're thrown with, hey, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. Oh, okay. Let's just sit
The
that minute. Your job is over. Or we have
texture completely disappear overnight.
instantly disappears just like that. So instead of fight or flight and letting your just letting your fight or flight take over, you recenter, and you recenter by doing nothing. Don't even think, just do nothing. Sit with those feelings. You're feeling anger, you're feeling frustration, you're feeling whatever you're feeling, give yourself time to feel it. Could be a day, could be a minute, however long it takes, but feel and deal with it. Because reacting from a place of that sort of shock is exactly the wrong way to do it, because you don't have blood running to your mind. It goes to extremities, right? So pause. Second one, I in pivot stands for introspect. And here you're introspecting on something very important, your own identity. Remember, part of why we are afraid of change is because we feel our identities will be threatened. Now, here I am, a lady with a PhD. How am I gonna now start looking for an entry level position? I'm not gonna do that, right? But hey, do you need it? Yes, you do. You need the job? Yes, you do. So you
So
got
how am I going to pay my bills?
You gotta pay your bills, right? Detach from that identity that no longer serves you. Understand that you're not going away. It's still there, but don't let it hinder you from adopting whatever new identity the new situation requires, right? And then V stands for vector. By that I mean, again, remember all these are conversations you're having with yourself. Vector means rest assured in knowing that you can vector, move from what you already know to create something new. You already have everything you need to deal with whatever gets thrown your way. Use the old to learn the new. Even if it's just, I know how to read. That saves lives.
Sure.
I know how to add.
Yeah.
That saves lives. Maybe even more significant, substantial. This is something you learned in your previous job or in a different relationship or in a different country or from your kid. You've seen this before. You can apply it as a vector, as a bridge to get to where you need to be, that you don't want to be in. All
Right.
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 And then O stands for overcome the fear of making mistakes. Most of the
A
time,
hard one.
it's a hard one. It's a really hard one. We resist change because we're just so afraid we're going to make mistakes and people are going to laugh at us and blah, 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 blah. Oh, just chill.
Well,
It's not going to happen.
what happens when I make the mistake and it blows up and totally crashes every effort that I'm trying to make, right? Like you predict the worst, I think. There's a fear of if I start down this path, I don't know. Like I don't know what the end of this path looks like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm scared that I might really mess it up. I might get lost. And it really is like the function of faith
Yes. You got to have faith.
to really say, it's okay to go into the unknown,
Yes,
and I don't have it all figured out, and it's
yes,
okay if I mess this up really, really badly, I'm still me, and it's
right.
still gonna be okay.
Right, right. And alongside that, that is so well seen, Kristen. I should quote you because the examples I like to use, which I think about more readily, are you know what? You think people are laughing at you. No one's counting, no one is watching. It's not as big a deal as you think it is, really. At the end of the day, it really is not all that big a deal, right? So, in addition to what you said, which is very apt. So, thanks for sharing that. And then the T just stands for travel forward and don't look back. By that, I mean commit to the new life, commit to the new path that is in front of you. Because part of why we resist change so much is because we wish we still had that job, or we wish we were still 20 pounds lighter, or we wish we were still married or in that relationship, or, we are so, it's hard for us to let go of the past. And that just makes it that much harder to
Yeah,
embrace change. And I call it dancing with change because in everything I've said, the real key here, my tools are just to help you ease your resistance to change instead of wrestling change. We don't want this. Yeah, you dance with it
yeah,
because you have ease around the fear. You know how to play with the fears that naturally ensue when we're faced with the unknown.
I
So
love that.
that's where pivot comes in. And I find, you can apply pivot across all areas of your life, most areas of your life, including relinquishing hyper independence. For example, when it comes to identity as a hyper independent high achiever, I will let you know this is a biggie. I already gave the example of, look, I got multiple degrees, a PhD, over 20 years of experience doing amazing things if I and I have had to take on an entry level position because I needed the money,
Yep,
right? So the conversation you have with yourself there is, well, my identity as the college professor, or my identity as the economist, is it serving me right here, right now? No, it's not. The people who are paying me, do they even need to know that I have all these mega superpowers and an amazing history? No, they don't. They're not paying me to know all of that. So it doesn't matter.
yeah. I mean, it's tedious to be in the constant, I have to prove myself to everybody around me, when really all you have to do is connect with the people who are around you.
You put it so well because it's all about being present, right? Being updating all of yourself to be in the present moment. Because when you are, then you're not wondering about the past as much and needing to do anything more than just sit here right now.
And I think that's so easy to say, but it's so hard to do. It's so hard to do. And like anyone who has ever had a teenager
Yeah.
or a toddler knows that it's really hard to explain to them why they should not be screaming at you
Yes.
and telling you
Yes.
no and throwing things
Yes. You
because
put
you're
it.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they really don't care. It's very humbling and it's very much about, okay,
Yeah. Yeah. No, you are
who
so,
am
so,
I
so right.
right now in this moment and who is it that I want to be in this moment?
Yes. And truly, at the end of the day, this moment is all we have, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the day. So, yeah, and it's
So,
funny you should say about kids. Sorry to close
yeah.
your comment about kids. I was driving, running errands, blah blah blah, and I was thinking to myself, I speak so much about dancing with change to adults, and it's such a challenge to apply the same concept with my own kids. They'll humble you, humble the
Yes,
out
they
of you.
will.
Excuse the French.
Yes, yes, they will.
Anyway,
There's so much that I have learned from like parenthood and those everyday challenges that really and I think it goes both ways. There's things you learn professionally that you can like use at home, but also like there are things at home that you can apply.
right? Yeah, yeah. goodness. Yeah, yeah.
So one of the things that I'm going to do with this podcast is I want to kind of level set for people and ask every guest like a series of questions. And the purpose of this is to just really help people to connect through very basic things to really kind of understand what other people's lives might be different, might be the same, and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to ask you some questions really quick, if that's okay.
Of course. Of course.
So, what does a typical day look like for you?
Well, I work from home, so for
Hmm.
better or worse. Um, no, morning routine, get up, get the kids ready for school and exercise, and then sit in front of my computer and work. Then, of course, kids come home and we work through dinner and homework, and then it's time for bed. So, nothing too different. How about
What is
yours?
mine? So, I am in a period of change right now. So, I'm sort of, I just spent the last 4.5 years taking care of my mom.
Oh, yes,
And
you did tell
um,
me.
so my typical day was very different because it had to do with a lot of like just putting out fires, figuring out, getting kids to school and everything. And now I have a sophomore in college and a senior in high school who drives herself. So my routine is probably very similar to yours at this point. You get up, she takes care of herself for the most part and gets herself off to school and then exercise, help it, feed the dog, and then sit down and really sort out my day. And yeah,
Gotcha.
very boring stuff. What is your favorite meal of all time?
My favorite what? Sorry?
Your favorite meal?
Meal. I'm so boring, but I like lentils. So
Yeah.
probably dal.
Dal is so good.
Really, I'm not vegetarian or vegan, really not strictly anyways, but I love lentils. I really do.
You're good. Yeah.
So yeah, that'll probably be up there with vegetables.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
yours?
So I don't have it very often, but I had this really good peanut chicken when I was in Washington, D.C. that really just left an impression. It was Nigerian and it's a little bit different than like a Thai peanut chicken. It's got a little more spices and I would say that that might be one of is
Nice.
chicken, but yeah.
Yeah, very good.
What is your most frequent mode of transportation?
Just my car. Again, I work from home and my kids take the bus to school. The twins walk to school because we live right by their school. So, I don't need to travel very much except when we do like road trips. It's always my car at the
Yeah,
moment, if I do
yeah,
any. Otherwise, it's
yeah.
just my legs between the kitchen and my office.
Mine is probably my car, but I try to walk as much as I can.
Yeah, me too.
I live close to our little downtown area, and so you know, it's I grew up in Michigan. My kids insist that I should be used to the cold by now, but I really don't enjoy it much. So, in the winter it's a little bit harder to convince me to go outside and walk.
Hmm. I get that.
What is your favorite thing about this year so far?
This year, my God, this has been an epic year for me, I have to say. I've managed to scratch off a lot of my bucket list items. The book,
Good.
No More Free Passes being one of them.
Huh?
Um, yeah, no, I've managed to get, yeah, that's that, and my kids and I went to Africa to visit South Africa earlier in the year. I had a birthday in the beginning of the year, and we went to, we booked a little place in the mountains there, and we visited with family. And I get to fly my mom to the U.S. I got my doctoral commencement. I finished my PhD like 2 or 3 years ago, but I'd never celebrated it
Nice.
or even done the graduation. And so I was able to fly her as a family. We went to Texas, did all of that, and I went to a TEDx show, and I started the speaking business, which I knew I always wanted to do.
That's amazing.
So yeah,
Incredible year.
I feel like it's been a really rock and rolling year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, how's yours been?
I mean, it started off as rough, but my favorite part of the year so far is this. It's launching Be Global by Design and the conversations that I've had with people around it and like artists and designers and really hearing their stories and why they want something like this to exist has been my
Yes,
favorite part.
excellent.
I think that, yeah, I think that's been my favorite.
Then would you say, I think both of you both we got a sparkle when we both spoke about our passion projects. For you is Be Global by Design. For me is Dancing with Change and the speaking and the books I write about it. What do you think it is about this year that made us both just want to do it? Or did you start Be Global by Design this year as well or not?
Well, I started it in 2024. And by the way, we're talking about 2025 here. The episode will not air till 2026. So
Yes.
just a level set for everybody. Um, the year started with like my mom in hospice while USAID was getting fed into the wood chipper.
Oh,
And so I had premised the launch of Be Global by Design as being kind of a subcontractor on USAID work. And so it took me a minute to rethink what this model might look
mm-hmm.
like and the relevance in the world. So yeah, it took a minute,
Yeah.
but it's really been exciting. I think the other favorite thing I would say this year is maybe the silver lining of the fallout is that I started reaching out to people in Michigan who had
Yeah.
also been impacted by
Yeah.
USAID, and and they started reaching out to people, and we created this group of people who are really passionate about seeing what can we do based on our experience, and you're part of the group. And what can we do based on like our experience overseas and the projects that we've been part of to really funnel that into Michigan and change in Michigan and
Yes.
enacting like what our vision is of what a great community and a great state would be to do. So that's been my other favorite.
That is so awesome. In everything you say, what I think stands out at me, both in terms of what you said, just the way you birth Be Global by Design from 24 and blah blah blah, and also the this Michigan vision is what you said, it takes a while for it to fall into place, and it feels like it finally has. I'd say that's the highlight for me for this year when it
Yeah.
finally clicks and you're in your flow and this is you. It's not just
Yeah.
another job that pays the bills. That is special. That is really powerful.
So what are you going to take into next year? What are you most looking forward to next year?
I guess continuing to grow and explore where this path takes me. I'm excited to have you in my life and see how best we continue to collaborate. And when you're in a new path and you're discovering yourself and meeting people that really nourish you and make possible that which you're here to do,
Yeah.
nothing beats that. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I think that's so well said.
Just continuing the journey in my authenticity, like in my authentic self. Done. I know the USA thing was a real unfortunate thing, as you said. But what I love about what you're saying right now is how you were able to take that opportunity and really create what speaks to Kristen, not USID and the government and, you know, whoever presidents mandates and what we need to be doing in which country. It's like, dude, I've been around the world. What have I got to offer now? What is
Yeah.
authentically me? What's my own voice?
And what's fun,
And
right?
what's fun? We've had a couple of rough years.
Let's have fun. That sounds awesome. Thank you so much for being my first guest on my podcast. This is exciting.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristen. I am so honored. I'm so pumped. You are the one person who was able to marry my past, my history. You know how in jobs they always take bits and pieces from you. It's like, no, you're just the economist or you're just the teacher. But
Right?
it's so wonderful feeling whole, being able to talk to you in my wholeness. And I hope I was able to help you feel that way too. Celebrate that about yourself.
Absolutely.
Goodness, Kristen, it's been so much fun. Thank you so much for this
Thank
amazing podcast.
you. Thank you. Take
All right,
care.
we chat later. Bye.
Okay.